for 7 years. I just want to say I agree with this gentleman about the principles. I think we just disagree about how to get there. So I just want to put that out there. Unite Here in 2013 organized 10,000 private sector workers around the country. We organize, we fight the boss, and we win. Here in Seattle, with only 2,000 members, we won some of our best contracts during the Great Recession. We did not join hands with the boss and agree to takeaways. We fought in the streets for higher wages, affordable family health insurance, workload protections for housekeepers, pension, and much more. I want to tell you a little bit about the health insurance because that's really what we're talking about. It's a 90-10 plan. For now, we want you to understand that taking an anti-union position will help corporations and hurt workers. Don't let these unintended consequences play into the corporation's hands. Protect the benefits that workers have already fought for, and we will all win. Thank you.
The unions in this country were built on sit-down strikes in the auto factories and illegal actions, and it inspired and mobilized thousands of people across this country. It was not built on things like the CBO. And there's been a campaign in this country against union militancy for 60 plus years by the union leadership, built on compromises, all the things that have been said here before. It's not surprising to me that, unions, excuse me, I'm very tired. Workers in unions feel defeated, just like workers who are not in unions. And do we want to start from that defeat and their fear, or do we want to say, we're going to support you, we're going to fight with you, we want to rebuild the union so that they fight for you and with you? And to me, that is what overturning the CBO would stand for, is sending that message to them. I want to say something about the CTAC agreement. I don't know if everybody here is familiar with the details of that, but the CTAC agreement had a complete CBO for unions, as I understand it. It was written by the SEIU. And as it turns out, as I understand it, 40% of the workforce in the CTAC area is excluded from the $15 an hour increase. Because CTAC, it's the airport, everybody at the airport is excluded because they're on property owned by the port. So there was a huge loophole in the end on that. It was not a complete victory. I don't want to support that kind of a victory. That's not a victory. I think that needs to be openly discussed. So to me, that's what another CBO would look like in this. Let's not repeat that. Lastly, I want to say that Philip said that 90,000 people in Seattle voted for Sawant. They didn't vote for a CBO. They voted for $15 an hour now, no exemptions. And we only need 50,000 signatures on for this ballot measure. Let's start with the 90,000 and build from there. Turn down the CBO.
I can speak about the Sawant campaign as the political director, and I can say the same arguments we're having here, we actually faced from some of our friends as activists at the time. We thought it was a ridiculous compromise that we ran for office, that we were attacked in the same way that we were compromising. And we explained what was necessary to connect to workers on a principle basis and fight. I think what was said about CTAC is ludicrous. There are problems with the CTAC initiative. If I was writing the CTAC initiative, if we were strong enough, maybe we would have won more. And it wasn't a full, total victory. But the CTAC victory was an historic gain. It raised workers' confidence all across this country, and it's one of the reasons we're here. That's not to say the CTAC ordinance is perfect. There are loopholes in it. There are exemptions. Roughly half the workforce is not included. It has nothing to do with the CBO. It does have a CBO, but I think that would be a fundamental mistake that some people here are asking us to step into, is see the world in black and white terms. And no victory is ever 100%. And that would be, despite any limitations in CTAC, it was a huge step forward. Here in Seattle, we need to, and I agree wholeheartedly with what Councilmember Sawant said, we need to extend our hand in solidarity to unite here. That will strengthen them, and it's the right thing to do. On the issue of a CBO, some people have raised this question about it being the same as total compensation. I understand why that concern can exist, but I think that's a fundamentally wrong perspective. Because you have to look at the truth is concrete. We are against, we've been the 4 months most fighters against the boss's attempts for total compensation. But we don't deny the reality that there is such a thing as total compensation from the point of view of workers and bosses. If I have the choice of getting paid $15 an hour or 15 plus of very high quality health care, I prefer the second option. There is a difference, and the boss prefers the first. That is reality. Now, when the bosses talk about total compensation, they are doing it when they know it will be, on the whole, better for them. That they can do a very cheap total comp of like $1.50 and have a $2 deduction on the wage, and then it's their interest. The CBO allows the workers to make that decision. This does not enforce any worker to accept anything. The worker, through a collective bargaining agreement, through a union contract, can make the concrete judgment, is this in our interests or is it not? So I think that's one thing to be crystal clear about. This allows union workers in one industry, the one industry that asks for it, in the hotel industry, to make that decision for themselves, and I think they can do that, and if there's any concerns about Unite Here, that has to be addressed within Unite Here. This struggle is not going to solve every problem in the labor movement.
I'm Sarah Scott. I'm a member of Radical Women and Freedom Socialist Party, and I'm a restaurant worker. I've heard several times today that a two-tier phase-in is necessary so that big business can't use the needs of small business to avoid paying its own workers $15 an hour. But what matters much more than the claims of big business is, are those claims true? I don't think a single-tier wage increase has to harm small businesses, and we shouldn't plan a movement merely in response to what is being claimed. A head tax and a public utility tax are realistic ways to disprove big business's claim. If we had spent our time since March 15th working toward those goals instead of a phase-in, we might have already made some serious headway. Thanks.
I'm the executive director of Casa Latina, which is a nonprofit. And I really believe in $15 and $15 now. Casa Latina has already done it in our organization. So all of our employees and all the workers that we dispatch make a minimum of $15 an hour. But on the other hand, I know that nonprofits operate on the edge. We don't make any profit. And many of the nonprofits don't have any cash reserves either, or very little cash reserves. When we raised our wages to $15 an hour, we had to take money out of our cash reserves, and we were able to do it because there were only 2 employees that made less than $15 an hour in our organization. However, I do know that there are many other nonprofits where that is not the case, and many of their employees, if not most of them, make less than 15, and they would not be able to do it right away without cutting staff. So they need the time to raise the money. It is important to do it. They shouldn't be exempted, but they do need some more time in order to raise the money. Small businesses also operate on the edge, and they also need time to raise the money. Furthermore, the strongest argument of big business is that they are hiding behind small businesses and saying that it's not really their issue, it's the issue of the small businesses. They're worried about the small businesses all of a sudden. And we need to take that argument away from them.